Buttes and viewers, my name is Kiss the Butte and welcome back to KTB Network. Today I am watching the hot mess downfall that is Ubisoft. And yeah, let's get started. Let's see what's going on with Dr. Disaster. Pause. Okay. Let me see. Enough with the bloatware. Okay.
What's up, space pirates? This is your admiral, the dread pirate Dr. Disaster, and the scramble to create a positive narrative for the release of Assassin's Creed Shadows continues for Ubisoft and the corporate butt-kissers who really want this corporate slop to succeed. They just announced that Shadows hit 3 million players in their first week.
Who gives a shit?
We've talked about this repeatedly, but this is the narrative that Ubisoft is going with in order to spin the tale that everything is hunky-dory with regards to Assassin's Creed Shadows. They are relying on this smokescreen, talking about the number of players rather than the number of sales in order to make it seem like they've accomplished more than they really have. They're counting all the people who subscribe to Ubisoft Plus, spend $17, they launch the game, realize that Ubisoft still makes Ubislop, and then they unsub and save themselves $53.
I got a lot of problems with you people. Now, you're gonna hear about it.
Yeah, there's a lot
I love Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
wrong with the way Ubisoft is reporting their numbers. They want people to conflate player numbers, which virtually nobody else in the industry uses to track success, but they want you to conflate those numbers with sales figures, and they are clearly not the same thing. Even IGN, as you can see here, is joining in on the call for Ubisoft to reveal the number of copies sold. I do have some numbers, though, that I'm going to...
Because if that were true, you'd be showing us, right?
show you, which indicate that Shadows isn't doing particularly well in at least one country. The Japanese are hating on this game. But these game journalists were happy to repeat the Ubisoft spin at first with the player count stuff, but gamers have fought back against this messaging to the point that even game journalists are getting impatient. They're looking at Ubisoft and saying,
For God's sake, just give me the damn number!
That's my stepdad's favorite movie. Dumb and Dumber, I think.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so, and also, don't forget to support the channel by becoming a member. There are multiple exclusive projects you won't want to miss out on that'll be available to members only, including a space pirate cartoon that's in the works. There will be more information soon, but we can't just passively complain about what we dislike in culture. We have to aggressively attempt to change it for the better by providing alternatives. So, if you're interested in supporting a venture like that, consider becoming a member of the channel. In any event, let's have a gander at some of the sales information for Assassin's Creed Shadows in order to better understand where the game stands. First of all, as we talked about over the past several months, Assassin's Creed Shadows is perceived as an insult by a ton of Japanese people. There were a lot of very poorly researched elements of Japanese history and culture that Ubisoft included in the game.
Yes, hiring activists instead of people native to the country itself. Oh, and oh man, that's so cringe.
Which pissed a lot of Japanese people off to the point that their parliament has been actively discussing the game on parliament floor. Folks over there in that country are generally unhappy with the westernization of their culture in a game which Ubisoft represents as something of a historical work. Obviously, everyone knows there are fantastical elements in Assassin's Creed stories, but these stories are meant to be told among the backdrop of a reasonably historically accurate setting. Now, you can argue that the Japanese are making a big deal out of nothing, but that's irrelevant. The fact remains that many of them are unhappy. There has been a ton of spin in the media concerning this. Game Rant, for example, wrote this article here where they attempt to make it seem like Japanese people love this game. As evidence of this, they cite the player score for Shadows on the website OpenCritic, which, at the time of this record...
Can they get a lawsuit for that? Can they get a lawsuit over that? Isn't that what's considered... No, not defamation. Could it be? Like a false
has less than 40 player reviews, and I'm not really sure how that's evidence of anything to do with how specifically Japanese people feel about Assassin's Creed Shadows. However, we have evidence that Japan is not actually buying this game up very well at all. Famitsu, if you aren't familiar, is a Japanese video game magazine because the Japanese are awesome and they still get to have those, something that I sincerely miss here in the West. But I digress. Famitsu.
It's like these people don't go to school.
Provided some pretty remarkable.
They don't study law. Like, do you not think before printing an article?
Bad news for Ubisoft. They disclosed the number of units sold for the game in their country for its first week, and it looks like the Japanese are, in fact, rejecting the hell out of Assassin's Creed Shadows. It barely made the top 5 best-selling games in the country, as you can see in this post on X. In fact, it got blasted by Xenoblade Chronicles X, which is no surprise. That franchise has always been big over there. You guys should check that game out, by the way. I still own it on my old Wii U, and it's pretty damn good, but I digress. Anyhow, Shadows also got beat by Monster Hunter Wilds, which has been out now for weeks. According to Famitsu, Shadows only sold 17,701 copies in Japan, which isn't particularly good considering that we're talking about the 3rd largest gaming market in the world.
Wow, Monster Hunter Wilds sold almost 1 million. That's crazy.
Behind only China and the US. For reference, in this same post, you can see that Monster Hunter Wilds has sold 750,000 copies in the country after about a month in Japan. Certainly nothing to be sneezed at. In comparison, in the first week of sales for both Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Odyssey, those games sold over 45,000 copies.
I was never interested in Mirage. It seemed so boring.
Without a doubt, when Ubisoft made Assassin's Creed Shadows, there was clearly going to be the hope that it would be a breakout success in its so-called home country. However,
like even in Valhalla, when he was switched out, when I was switched out as a character, it never interested me to play as, what's his face? I was never interested. What time is this dog coming? Oh, thank goodness. Okay.
They have dropped about 60% from the 2 biggest Assassin's Creed games over there. With this in mind, it's becoming more and more curious as to what the actual total sales numbers are for Assassin's Creed Shadows at this stage. By now, I don't doubt that they have surpassed 1 million sales for the game. As I'm sure a lot of you remember, I was predicting somewhere around 2 to 3 million in sales by the end of the game's first month, which was going to be a flop, mind you, with the context in mind that the game's cost is ginormous.
And the game was also released on PS5, right? So numbers add up a little bit.
And the fact that a Japanese Assassin's Creed should be absolutely crushing it. But anyhow, my prediction seems like it might be a little bit high by now, based on the number of estimated units sold on Steam from the website VG Analytics, which is usually the most accurate of those outside analytics firms. But based on their number of around 366,000 units, and Ubisoft's declaration that PC sales were somewhere around 25 and 30% of the total sales of the game, Ubisoft is likely somewhere between 1,100,000 the total sales of the game.
Assassin's Creed is a hit, and Steam played a significant role in that. That's pretty sad if Steam played a significant role in that. 27% of activations were on PC, and it's the biggest AC launch of all time. Of all time?
Game. Ubisoft is likely somewhere between 1,100,000 and 1.5 million in sales for Shadows. And keep in mind that there's always an explosion in interest right when a game releases, of course, but then sales drop off a cliff. And this is true for all games. Based on all this data, I expect the game to limp across the 2 million mark by the time this has been out for a month. But
that was actually pretty impressive
for a game where they need to multiply that figure by 3 or 4 times at full price in order to break even. And you have to keep in mind that the reason Ubisoft felt comfortable spending all this money on the game in the first place is because they believe that this game would be an auto buy for gamers that we couldn't refuse, and they're right to an extent. It should have been an auto purchase for a lot of people, but they chased people away
because it looks like it has some pretty solid moments as I'm watching the gameplay here. Not that I'm interested in buying it, but then again, there are certain moments that just overshadow everything else
by courting controversy. In any event, I'm going to leave it there. What do you make of this sales data?
I agree. I already gave my opinions during the video, so yeah, that's been my opinion on Dr. Disaster. You know, let me know your thoughts down below. Comment your thoughts. Let me know what other videos you want me to react to. Like and subscribe if you vibe. Become a view today. Today I've been really tired, but we're getting them out. We're getting these videos out before I get to streaming. But all right, guys, see me on the live tabs, and I'll see you later. Bye.